The bandwidth for this episode of Fat to Fit HQ is sponsored by the Firearms Radio Network, firearmsradio.tv.
But I want you to get it.
I think you do it well. I'm not much for the reading intros.
Oh my gosh. Okay, then I'll do it if I must, because Jack is MIA and you are refusing. Okay.
You got it.
You got it. Okay. Welcome to the Fat to Fit HQ podcast. I'm your host, Carol Salva of the Firearms Radio Network. And along with me is Chris Tinder from New Mexico. We are on a journey, right? In this podcast, we're chronicling our journeys from fat to fit. We talk about pursuing a healthier lifestyle, not only in diet, but in all areas of life.
See, I think you just want me to read it because you don't remember it.
You're so right, man. Episode 105, and now what's that again? How did it go? I know. I'm interrupting this podcast with Chris Tinder to kind of backpedal a little bit and take you to the day that we actually did this Tough Mudder. Chris is joining me on the podcast now, as are JT and Shelly, in just a little bit. But I wanted you to see or hear some of what happened that weekend in Dallas. So I'm cutting into this podcast. Just if you go to fat2fithq.com/106, you can watch the video version and see a lot of the pictures from that morning. But basically, we all went to Dallas. None of us were from Dallas. And Friday night before the run, the first place I went was a CVS. And amazingly, I ran into Shelly and JT. And I'm not embarrassed to say I buy makeup at CVS. That's what I was doing there, because you need your makeup for Tough Mudder. And Shelly was buying knee braces. And we ran into each other, and me with my makeup and her with her knee braces. We kind of, came to the reality that we were not prepared for this run. But that's okay. We went across the street to P.F. Chang's. Thank you, P.F. Chang's at Frankfurt and the Tollway in Dallas, for your hospitality, for being so wonderful to us. Other folks came. Thank you, Michael from the AR-15 show, and Edison, Macy, and it was just a really great time that night before, but we stayed out a little too late and probably drank more than we should. And then we had to be at the Shell station at 6 a.m. the next morning. So I was running late, and here's some video from that Shell station. So we're at the Shell station in Wilmer, Texas, and it's cold. It's so cold. It's so cold. So that's bad news, because Arctic Enema is the second obstacle. I'm going to go find my team. I'm heating up my very nutritious breakfast. This sausage biscuit I got from the case over there. Okay. Yeah, not wise to forget about breakfast. But we got there. We had vendor parking and media passes for some of us for the run, which was pretty cool. And we thought we were very smart to get there so early. Here's some video of when we first got there.
Yeah, I don't blame her. Everybody say hi. It's a pre-run video. And everybody's confident, right? Let me see that shirt.
It's 45 degrees.
Balmy weather. We're hot. We need Arctic Enema to be like the first obstacle, right?
That's right.
Okay, it's almost is. It's the second obstacle. Okay, we're ready to go. Not. All right. So then we're so proud of ourselves because we got there so early. And when we went to sign in, something else funny happened. And here's a little video of that.
We are so smart that we got to the parking place at 6 a.m. so that we could, and we did. This was the easiest drive-in ever. Yeah. It wasn't an hour to get in the parking or anything. So we all parked. And then we walked up, ready to go, and they don't open for another 45 minutes. So we're sitting here. Say hi, Shelly. Hi. Hi, here's T. The gun runners. We're so smart. We're ready to go. Okay.
See, you have a good team when nobody gets mad at you for getting them there an hour early in the freezing cold before dawn and all that jazz. But no, they were an awesome team. They didn't disappoint. Also, I want to mention that I'm wearing my Pistolero handgun training visor for this run. So I want to thank Ross Archer, and a link to his Pistolero handgun training is in the show notes. So yeah, moving on, we went ahead and finally got registered. They opened, thankfully, and we were with that first wave. And before we ran, which was the best pump-up speech ever, but before we ran, we took our pre-run photo, and everybody was clean. And then about halfway through the run, we got some very muddy pictures thanks to Connie, who is Tyler's wife. And again, my gun runners, Tyler, Scott, Cassie, JT, and Shelly. Super fantastic team. You may notice I'm not saying Chris Tinder, although he did fly in from New Mexico. Let's go ahead and go over to our after show that we recorded the other night so that you can hear reflections. And Chris did join us for that. And he did run the Tough Mudder that day. Let's go see what happened to all of us. So our Templin family, Shelly and Jack Templin, are supposed to be joining us this evening for this podcast. And I want you to know that Chris Tinder and I had agreed to do an earlier podcast, but Jack said it would be better for him later in the evening. So that's why we're recording later. And yet the email I just got from Jack was, "Oh man, I forgot." So he's rushing back to his room, and he's going to join us in a few minutes. But I'm super eager to talk to you, Chris Tinder, because first I want everybody to know that we built all this stuff up about you joining the Gun Runners. And tell us how your weekend in Dallas, the unfolding of all of that.
Well, we were going to. You guys wanted to do it at 8:30, and I was okay with doing it at 8:30
in the morning.
In the morning. But the guy I was staying with wanted to do it later. Well,
Right.
He ended up not being registered correctly. So by the time we figured all that out, and he ended up being sick, it was just everything that could go wrong with him. Wrong. I was just by myself. I went on the regular time. I did the regular 11:40 or whatever
And you
start
went
time.
by yourself without a team.
It was okay. I work out by myself. I run by
I know.
myself. I don't.
I'm
So
not doubting that you can do
felt
it.
fine. And everybody else is really helpful. So it was actually pretty. I mean, I want to do it with people next time because I mean it would be a little bit more fun, but definitely it's possible to do by yourself if you have to.
Absolutely. Our lost mudder, Elena, in Tennessee, she just got separated from us, and she needed the most help of anybody. If you ask her, she keeps saying, she was almost going to quit. But she just latched on to other teams all along the way, and just total strangers. She'd be sitting down taking a break, and they're like, "Come on, girl, come on," and just like push her along. And I mean, I helped people, and even if all it was to give a guy a hand where he had something to hold on to, not like I helped him over the obstacle, but sometimes in some of those mud things, you just need something to hold on to get yourself up. And so I can imagine, I bet you helped a bunch of people too. You didn't just get help along the way.
Oh, absolutely. I usually gauged how much I helped by how hard the obstacle was for me.
Uh-huh.
So,
Okay.
or most of the time, so I would do it, or I got down. There's a couple times that I just let people climb all over me because I wanted to help. And there was normally it was some people that they looked tired or they were smaller and they couldn't climb up on things
Yeah.
easy because like the hay bale one, there's giant hay bales and it's kind of hard to get up on the. So
Yes.
so I would get down and let people go, and I had no problem doing that. It was fun, and it was a little bit of a rest too. So
Yeah, here,
uh,
climb on my back. I'm gonna get down.
and I have a whole nother I have a whole section on that. But yeah, I helped a lot of people. There was one obstacle, the mudslide one. I don't know if you remember that one, but it was basically just a 45-degree slope that you have to climb up, and it just people kept sliding down. That was
Okay,
the
wait.
hardest
Was it
obstacle.
early in the day or was it later on?
It was about mile 6.
Okay. Hey, Shelley Templin, welcome. I,
Hey.
I see you joined us. Do you remember that Chris Tender is here? Do you remember Chris from when we did the pre-show?
Yeah, Chris, I'm anxious to hear how your experience was.
He
Oh,
was
it was
just starting to tell us. He's just starting to tell us, and he's bringing up an obstacle like a mudslide around mile 6. Do you remember a big mudslide where people were climbing up but just sliding back down?
Oh, yeah. That's the
Oh,
one that you went on the side.
oh,
That was
stop
that the quagmire, wasn't it? And you went on the side like a little billy goat.
it. Oh,
Remember
yes,
that? We had to go
yes.
through the mud, and then everybody was trying to go up the middle, and you went to the side where there was still some roots, and you were telling me, go to the side, go to the side.
I'm all about don't even do this obstacle. Look, come here. I can show you how you don't have to be in mud.
Well, and the guys were going straight up the middle and then just sliding down and
Oh.
wiping everybody out. Remember
You're
that?
right, Chris. And we were at the beginning of the day. We did go in that very first wave. So obstacles like that, I mean, it was truly just a side of a very
Yeah.
steep hill that was completely muddy. And I mean, I knew I couldn't get any kind of grip. So I went to the side. I wasn't even I was in the dirt, going up the side of it. And we knew the more people that came through there, the more slick it would be. So that was a more difficult obstacle for you, I'm sure.
Well, that was the turning point in my day. Uh,
What do you
everything
mean?
was. I don't want to say it was easy, but I was flying through everything. I was going really fast. I was running fast. I was doing everything. It was great.
Wow.
After that obstacle, it was
Yeah.
downhill.
Oh
I think
no.
I think I felt that way about the mud mile. Like after the mud mile, there it just everything changed after that. So,
Oh
but it's
That
man.
was like
exhausting.
high
Like,
stress. Yeah.
yeah.
So that's when it stops being fun.
I think
I
that's
had a
when I
lot of.
You still had a lot of fun, Chris, even after it got hard?
Well, I'll show you if I can get it onto the camera what
Oh.
happened on that. My knees, you can't see them very well on here, but
yeah.
there you go. All this and on my other leg, both legs are they were just bloody after that
Oh my
because I
gosh,
kept climbing
Chris,
up
you are
it and
full
I
of
would just slide
scabs.
down.
You were totally full of scabs all up your leg, big ones. Now, what did you say? You would totally fall down what?
Well, the mud I call it the mudslide. I didn't really catch the name of
The
it, but
quagmire.
was it called that? Okay, the
The
quagmire.
quagmire.
Well, I would climb up it, and I I didn't have much strategy because I couldn't figure out what to do. So I just started climbing up, and I was just clawing in the mud, and I was on my hands and knees, and I got on my elbows. My elbows got all scratched up too, but I
Oh,
would just slide down. Well, in the mud, there's like little rocks. You don't
oh yeah,
see
and
or feel
roots
them.
and
Mhm.
everything. And you've got so much adrenaline just trying to get up it that you're not even realizing that you're tearing up your
Right. I didn't feel
shins.
it. No, didn't feel. I didn't actually
Oh.
feel it until the next day. My
Oh,
legs were very messed up, but
Well,
that
when you,
was I thought it was the best part because that was the hardest one. That was the hardest obstacle for me was that one
wow.
obstacle climbing up that
wow.
slide.
Wow.
When
And
Jack gets here, he'll have to show you his knees because he's pretty scabbed up and bloodied up. My elbows. Yesterday, I was sitting in a meeting and my elbows started bleeding again.
again,
So,
it's been a
I
week.
mean, they just scabs keep coming off of my elbows, and my
Lovely.
knees were covered up. I think yours were too. So we didn't get the
Yeah.
knees as bad, but the guys were pretty torn up. And
No, no, my knees weren't. I had long shorts that
yeah,
stopped just at my knees. And yeah, the next day I was talking to somebody and I just like I don't know, I scratched my ear or something and you could see all the
yeah,
scabs, the scratches above my elbows on both. And I'm still just now healing from some of
yeah.
that stuff. It's not
Today's
attractive.
my first day. I don't have Band-Aids on.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? I couldn't wear a skirt. And right now I'm heavy. For me, I'm outside of my comfort zone. And I'm gonna be like this until I get my master's and this all this stuff done. But I have to wear skirts because a lot of my pants don't fit. And I couldn't wear skirts when I got back to work because my legs were so tore up. It's such a bad leg that I just went with tight pants.
Well, the other day I was changing, it's time to change sheets to the bed, and I pulled off. I'm like, Jack, what the heck happened in the bed? It looked like a murder had happened.
Oh, no.
Stabs and blood everywhere.
Gross.
I know, it was brutal.
Oh,
brutal.
crazy. I don't think we're recruiting many people.
You know what? It was so much fun. I think I have cracked ribs, Carol. No, I'm not really kidding you.
Like about what? From
the mud mile. At first, I thought it was because
explain the mud mile to people because I forgot for a minute.
Yeah, the mud mile. When I watched Jack and y'all do that in Tennessee, y'all were in muddy water about up to your knees, and then you had to go over humps that were about waist deep. This mud mile, the trenches were so deep, we were in over our waist in muddy water, and then we had to reach up, and the pictures are incredible because we're reaching up, and there's no way you can get onto that hump by yourself. And so, people were pulling, and the first one I had Jack and another guy, I'm not sure who it was, and when they pulled, I don't know if they pulled me into the side or whatever, or if my ribs just all separated and the cartilage is strained, but it's not getting better. So, yeah, so it was really, and then there was nothing because it was all dug out. Chris, I imagine it was really bad when you were there because, from people trying to put their feet, and we kind of figured out someone had to boost, someone had to pull, and we just went up and over the humps. What were there, 7 or 8 of them? I don't know, but there was no way you could have done that by yourself. If you fell in that later at night, no one got you out, you'd be there all night.
Yeah.
The grave. Did you have? I was just going to ask Chris because he went through that too, and now I know it's like a ditch after ditch after ditch after ditch, and that's always where I know that I'm going to have to throw these contacts away. I have never done one of those without getting splashed in the eye with mud, and because people are falling into the next ditch, and they're trying to remember Cassie went underwater. It was if you want to call it water.
Well, Jack knocked her in. Remember?
He what?
Jack knocked her in, and she went over backwards so she came in backwards, and when she stood up, muddy water was just on her teeth.
On her teeth, in her smile.
You see it. It was so bad in her contacts. And
yeah, she had an issue with contacts at that one. There was some woman on the side with contact lens solution, like saline. Yeah. And you're an angel here. But Chris, what was your experience like at that muddy mile?
Well, when I first saw it, it reminded me of the little mudslide one, so I was a little worried about it. But once we got it going, I kind of got into a group of people, and I happened to get into a group of these guys that were probably close to 300 pounds. So we were boosting them up, me and this other guy, and then they were pulling us up, and we did that through the whole way, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I liked that one, but it was challenging because you have to rely on somebody else. You can't do it by yourself, like
Absolutely.
You said. Cassie and I got in a group. I don't know where the men went in our group, but
they were
after Jack tried to pull me up and I screamed. I don't know where he went, but he went somewhere, and he's not on here, so he can't defend himself. But Cassie and I kind of got in a group with some other women. It was pretty cool because we would push and pull, and then there was one time the girl pulled me up, and the next time when I got ready to pull her up, I said, okay, I'm just going to fall into the pit, and you're coming with me. And as I went into one pit, she pulled her up on top of the hump.
She got up on top like a seesaw.
Yeah. So
that's so funny.
That was a lot of fun.
That's a total teamwork with strangers, whether you're on a team or not. You end up having to rely on other people. One thing that was really, I think, funny about that obstacle is that Jack and Tyler said that they were getting, waiting for a boost. Oh, look, I think Jack's joining us right now, but it looks like his mic is off. Well, I'm still gonna tell this story. he said that there was a woman over him, a girl, and she looked fit, but he was needing a boost from he was looking for a guy's hand to help him up. And the girl was like, give me your hand, give me your hand. And Jack was like, you're not going to be able to pull me up. He was looking for a guy. And when she grabbed his hand, she pulled him up with one arm like nothing out of the water. Like she was so strong, so crazy strong. And we saw her at a couple of other obstacles, and she was just like dominating everything. That was inspiring because Tyler said the same thing. She just pulled us both out like nothing.
Yeah.
So that was fun. I think Jack's here. I see Jack now. Are you with us, Jack?
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Now we can hear you. Let me tell you what we've talked about. We'll catch you up. Chris has told us, he started telling us how he came to Dallas and his friend got sick. His friend actually wanted to do the later wave, but then he got sick and he wasn't registered correctly. But so listeners know that Chris did the 11:30 run, where all the rest of us did the morning run, the first wave. And Chris thought that quagmire, that muddy hill, was the hardest one. And we've been sharing scars and scratches and bumps and bruises and broken ribs. Tell us what your hardest obstacle was. There's going to be a little bit of a delay, it sounds like, but that's okay. Tell us what your hardest obstacle was, Jack.
The hardest one for me was the one, the Legionnaires that I didn't finish. That was so hard to figure out how to get up to that tunnel. It was limited help. It was very difficult.
Yeah, and I thought you got a raw deal because when I did the Legionnaires loop, it was this really fun slide that you went through a little bit of fire, but it was so fast you didn't feel it. It was just like a fun thing. And your Legionnaires loop had these really difficult obstacles, and I forgot my headband, so I couldn't even do it with you. But I don't think I would have been much help, man. We were totally spent. And then that was a really hot. Did you see the Legionnaires loop, Chris?
I did. I was really upset that I couldn't do it.
And the only reason I'll have to defend him, the reason he really couldn't do it, because he would have stayed in there, but we were trying to get home because my daughter had her homecoming. So I looked at Jack and said, "This is our time. We got to go." And he really didn't have anybody that was in there helping. It was kind of a weak group of people. There just weren't a lot of people in that group.
It wasn't a good
so
crowd.
We had agreed that we would leave at a certain time, and so
it was already past that time because Shelly was on the sidelines. Instead of saying "Go Jack, go Jack," she kept telling him it's 2 o'clock.
We gotta go.
2 o'clock. So he was like, "You know what? Forget this."
And we still had to go through the electrocution.
Yeah, Chris, tell us how your electric shock experience was.
Well, I did it just like I did everything else. I just I ran as fast as I could through it, and I everybody was standing around it, and nobody was going through it, so I thought we had to wait. And so I just was standing there, and then I looked at the girl. She was like looking around, who's gonna go next? And I was like, "Can I go?" And she's like, "Yeah, go." So I just bolted. I made it all the way there to the end, and then after I got over the last hump, you kind of have to go up a little bit of an incline, and it's real muddy. Well, I started running, and I just face planted right at the end. And then so I got up and I finished it out and I ran, and I was covered in mud. And at the beginning they tell you if you have metal in your body, don't do it. Well, I have metal in my body, and I did it, and it was a bad idea. Well, I'll do it again, and I would because it's only my hand. But I got shocked in the hand, and it hurt very bad.
The metal part in your hand you felt?
Well, it wasn't the metal because I have metal here on the end next to my pinky. I felt it on the other end of my hand, and it was like my thumb was just pulsating. I could feel it in the bone. It was a lot of pain, but I mean, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't bad enough that I wouldn't ever do it again. It was just like touching a hot fence, but the metal definitely made a difference.
It's like a bee sting. I was trying to tell my kids, it's like you get stung by a bee or something like that. It's like, or a wasp. It's like, it's painful, but it's not like you can't stand it. and it's quick, but it'll take you down. Like, or at least me. Maybe you were a lot tougher, but the first one that hit me hard, I was down, face down, and then I couldn't get back up because there were too many hanging down. Anytime that ever happens, this is my strategy. I'll get shocked once, but once I go down, I am staying down, and I am army crawling all the way out so that I don't get shocked again. Well, they know me now at Tough Mudder, and they put these big hay bales where there's no way you can do that. You have to get over all these humps of hay bales, and you're getting shocked the whole time. And there was a girl who also fell with me, and she was just immobile. She was having cramps. She couldn't get out of there. I had to talk her out the side. She didn't even finish. She went out the side of it, and then I was like, okay, can I go out the side too? But then I was like, okay, forget it. It hurts so bad. The shocks hurt so bad. But
I'm glad to know that, Chris, because when they said the metal, I've got wires in my face right here. I've got 4 wires.
No.
And so we were like, yeah, because that was like pretty close to my brain. So,
Yeah. Well, it would hurt.
do-
I could imagine it being in my face. My hand, it's one thing you can kind of just put off and not worry about as much. Even if it was in my foot or something or in my leg, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. But face or anything in my torso, probably I wouldn't have done.
Yeah.
And it's not a substantial amount of metal. I have a little plate with a couple screws in there, so it's not anything crazy.
So did it hurt after?
Yes.
It hurt for a little bit after. It hurt to the point as soon as I got out of the little bullpen afterwards, where they give you your headband and the power bar and everything. It had kind of had gone away.
Okay. Jack, what were you saying?
I was saying I guess I shouldn't have done it with a pacemaker.
Oh.
You're not quite a pacemaker yet.
No.
Give a few more years. Hey, Jack and Shelley, did y'all really drive back to your hometown in disposable jumpsuits that you bought?
You know what? We hosed off the best we could, and then we were still just muddy, and so we just kind of. My daughter held up a blanket, and we stripped down the best we could, and just put on some clothes. But we got to back to town, and we could either go home. We would get home. We'd have 15 minutes, and Jack's like, "That's long enough to shower." Well, for a girl, that's not long enough to shower. So I was like, I don't want to go, and then I'll show up. I'll look showered, but I won't have makeup on. So we just waited, and we put our seats back, and we slept like hard. Like I think we were out for like 30 minutes. And so then my daughter texted me and said, okay, we're here. So we're like in downtown, and all the parents are there, and we literally, my head was still plastered with mud because I just had my hair back in a ponytail. I had mud in my ear. Like one of the ladies, she's known me for years, she walked up and she thought like, what in the world has happened to her? Like something's really bad happened. And we were, by that time, like the muscles were starting to tense up, and the scabs were starting to form. And so I'll just send you a picture. We got a picture of like everybody's dressed up, and even the parents were dressing up to take the homecoming pictures, and then here's Jack and I just like muddy messes with, and then Jack's like, well, we need to get dinner. And I was like, well, maybe my other daughter could pick it up and bring it home. And he's like, no, let's go home and shower first. I like, well, you don't understand. Once I shower and put my pajamas on, and I'm not going.
Game over.
Yeah, so we actually went to dinner like that too.
God, I didn't stand yourself. It was so disgusting.
It was so bad. It was really bad.
Hilarious.
We were pretty stinky.
Chris, did you go back to your friend's house then? You stayed another night?
Yeah, I did. I changed there. I was able to shower off in the little stall thingy, and then I actually changed, and I just started walking down the road until they came and picked me up, and I got some sushi and went home and went to their house and showered and ate and passed out. It was a pretty uneventful evening for me. I don't think I could have made it on the ride along that night because I was pretty exhausted at
Oh
that
my
point.
gosh, yeah. So you almost got to do a ride along like cops, but
Yes.
your
Yeah.
friend got sick, so that's unfortunate.
Now,
Uh,
Carol, let me ask you a question. Did you you've done a few of these, so this is my second one, but I thought this one, just in comparison, I just felt like it was more difficult than Nashville, a lot more difficult. And I don't know how that compares to like the other ones that you've done, but even the terrain that was between obstacles was a
yeah,
lot more difficult than Nashville was.
I think I know certain obstacles seemed a lot more difficult. Definitely that mud mile, like Shelley was saying, that was way harder to get through than what I had remembered. Um, I don't know. I don't know about the train between them. The worst one for me was Houston, but it was just because it was a beat down here. No, it's not pretty. This terrain at least had contour to the land. It was like we were saying probably a quarry or something with lots of up and down and just some pretty scenery. And Houston was at a dusty racetrack and humid, and it just
But I
seemed
remember like
harder there.
Nashville, between obstacles, it seemed, I mean, it wasn't, we were going up and down, up and down, up and down between obstacles,
Here?
yeah, in
Yeah.
Dallas. And I
Yeah.
didn't remember that in Nashville. It was more like y'all were
Mm-mm.
walking through a meadow, you
Mm-hmm.
know. It seemed like I didn't, I walked through some of them with you, but
I think
I
you're right.
remember, so I think like I felt like we were on old BMX trails, and we were
Yeah.
going up and down between each one.
That's how Austin was. And
Mhm.
um, Austin, it's just hilly. And so there were two different runs outside of Austin, and both times, we would just say you just felt like a billy goat the whole time. I finally did start like just scaling with my hands even. And there was a lot of that going up hills and down hills. I
Mm.
mean, when you hear about Denver, I keep thinking of Sean Heron's recount of, from We Like Shooting. He has this picture with his scalp just completely open, bleeding down his face from an obstacle, a water obstacle, where he got hit in the head when he came up and hit something, a log or something. But he talks about going up the side of those mountains that they use for skiing, but it was in the summer, so they're having to go up them, but there's guys at the top with fire hoses shooting you down, like so that you can't get up. So
My
and I
God.
love, oh, it's crazy. And he said it's freezing cold water. Any of the water obstacles there are freezing cold because it's all mountain runoff that they use. And I love that Tough Mudder uses, whatever the stuff is in the area, you're gonna be going through it. So we got so lucky with the weather, though.
That was perfect day.
That
It was
can
nice.
make or break it completely. Chris, you said you had a whole story. Was it about the hay bale or?
Oh no. I have a couple different uh, things basically that I learned about it. So I'll go down. I'll go down that list.
All right.
First off, I didn't bring any sunscreen.
Oh,
Um,
for the middle of the day.
yeah, middle of the day. I don't know why I didn't think of that. And as I don't know if you can see, but I'm not the tannest person. I don't have a lot of melatonin. I got so burned. Just waiting to run. We were just, we had to start late. Are you okay?
Yes.
We ended up starting at like 12:30, I think. So we were waiting in line for a long time. And so I got burned before it even started. Then we started running. My shoe came off on the beached whale event
What was the
with
beach
all the
whale
mud.
event?
It was like a big balloon
Oh yeah,
Oh,
thing.
we liked that one.
right after the Arctic enema. But yeah, the mud was
Yeah.
thick at the very
hmm
beginning. Oh my gosh.
It just popped right off because I tried to jump, and it was really thick, muddy water
Yeah.
or mud. It was bad. So I
Oh.
need to tape my shoes next time. I didn't do that. Uh,
Well, you could tape them, or you could just get those kind of shoes. Like mine never come off anymore because we got these low profile shoes that the water runs right out of them. They're Vibrams, but I mean, they're starting to really be worn out, but they're almost like a sock, but with some tread on the bottom. And they
Hmm.
really have me and the other people that have bought them. And I think Jack's got a decent shoe for mud running, I think.
Yeah, I got the I think they're Merrills or something. They call it called Minimus, I think. But I did some research and that I guess they've made it through two, and they look pretty good to me. So
And they don't come off in that real thick, suck your shoe off kind of mud.
no, not at all.
Yeah, it was worth it. Mine were like $50 or $60, and it's been worth it because you can tape them, but then I see people's tape all along the course because duct
But then
tape.
you lose the traction. Where are your shoes right now, Carol? They in a bag?
This is the first time I washed my shoes. I always find them just before the next run, right? Oh, gross. And that happened after Tough Mudder again because I'm so tired and I just put everything away and I throw away some clothes. And the very next weekend we did the Gritty Goddess that I want to talk about in a second. And I go, God, where are those shoes? And they had all that Dallas mud still on them. But I learned this time I washed them off and they're fine. Now they're fine. But they get like a board. They get totally stiff.
No, Chris, when you went to through the Arctic enema, was the water colored or was it muddy?
It was pink when we went through it. I don't know if that's normal. I tried not
Well,
to get it in my
I,
mouth.
uh, well, one of them was pink and one of them was green, and I know they dye them before they start. But in Nashville, by the time we got there, it was just mud ice. I mean, literally, it had no color to it other than just muddy water. I kind of thought that maybe the reason that we still had color was because we were in the first group, But I'm glad it lasted the whole time because it was nasty in Nashville. It was just like muddy ice water.
Ugh.
Well, in Nashville, y'all had gone through the mud mile before Arctic Enema, if you remember.
So we kind of washed
Uh,
off in there.
yeah,
Everybody
there
did.
wasn't a lot of mud before that. Before we went
Yeah.
through the Arctic enema, there wasn't very. I don't. I think we did get muddy because we had to climb underneath the barbed wire,
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
but that was I mean, it wasn't that much mud.
No,
Compared to the rest of the race, it wasn't that much mud.
no. And
I learned an interesting thing on that one where you're like army crawling under the barbed wire. It's always a good thing to wear too, for girls to not just wear their spandex, to wear their shorts over. Because the girl in front of me, her bottom went up and she hit the barbed wire, and yeah,
you get a big hole in your spandex if
yeah,
that's all you're wearing.
yeah. I was a little nervous for her the rest of the day.
Poor
That's
thing.
pretty early.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. You gotta, I don't know. I was very proud of my new strategy for Arctic Enema. I'm really upset when it's early on, especially because it was 46 degrees when we got there.
Oh
And
wow.
I know it's crazy cold in the morning. And and then it was like the third obstacle or something. It was right away. And so it was still pretty cool. But I forgot, I mean, I just went ahead and checked my vanity back at the start line. And so I took off my run shirt so that I just had the sports bra and the shorts. I took off my shoes and I took off my socks. And that way, I mean, it was horrific to swim through that ice water, without anything hardly. But when I got out, it was really, for me, very helpful to put back on a shirt that wasn't ice cold. And it's not like they were dry, but my socks and my shoes were not ice cold. And that has always been my problem. The hypothermia that I've gotten has been from not just getting so cold in my feet and my core that I can't warm up again. And so it worked fine. It was cool, but I wasn't ruined for the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's good. I just jumped right in, but I was thinking about that the whole time when I was running, because I wasn't cold, but I don't think when you're getting hypothermia, you think you're getting cold. You may just kind of get numb. So I was just running, and I was thinking, well, what if I'm not feeling this correctly? Because then I was just thinking about what you said that you had the hypothermia that one time, and obviously it's 80 degrees, 90 degrees in Dallas,
Yeah,
but
I think because I mean, they were just telling me it was a touch of, but it was that I couldn't, I really couldn't speak, and it had been a long time now. It had been, miles later, and I really couldn't like stop the shaking, and I couldn't feel my limbs, and that's not a good sign. I can't
No,
feel.
that's never
You know,
good.
it's a very weird sensation to be trying to keep up with people who'll walk, run, and not be able to feel your feet, or it was, and, and then I just felt bad. Like it was miserable, miserable, miserable. And we would stop at the stations, and they would put a blanket on me, but they wouldn't let me keep the blanket or walk with the blanket. So I had to eventually give the blanket back and keep walking. But that was miserable. I have a girl that was doing them with me, but same thing happened to her, and she won't do any more because of that. She's just
Oh wow.
It just made her miserable. And you never know what the weather's going to be like. For the Saturday run, it could be beautiful, and the Sunday run, it could be a cold front could come through, and that's just kind of part of it. But
Right.
I wanted to ask Chris, did you run between all the obstacles? Did you run it?
Yeah. Let me go ahead and wrap up my lessons learned because this
oh,
this comes into
sorry.
play. I got to after I did the quagmire, and I stayed there for a while because I realized how hard it was. So I was helping people. Somebody
Aw.
grabbed my feet and they threw me down halfway, and I was pulling people up. And so I stayed there for maybe 15, 20 minutes just doing that because
Awesome.
I actually had a lot more fun helping people than trying to climb up it. But
Yeah.
after that, I was running and I started getting a cramp in my calf. My right calf just started kind of seizing up. So I walked. I started walking from 6 to 7. I walked. Then after 7, I felt good again. So I started running,
Wow.
and I ran 7 to 8. And once I got to 8, everything cramped up. Both my calves and my right quad started cramping up, and I couldn't run at all. I would I was having trouble walking at one point, just going because you have to go up the hill. When you go up the hill, your calf kind of flexes up a little bit,
Oh my
and I'd
God.
cramp up. So I walked from 8 on to the rest of the race or the challenge or whatever they call it. But it was there was a couple obstacles, and one obstacle that I ran into that was the hardest with cramped up legs was the that log one where you have to jump over the logs. Uh,
Yes.
my legs were just not having it. I got over it, but I fell a lot getting over
I've
that.
never seen
So,
that one. That was a new one for me.
oh really? Well, the guy in line, he said that they did it in Dallas, or not maybe not in Dallas, but he said he had seen it before and he saw some guy run into it.
Oh.
Like he was trying to show off and he just jumped into it and couldn't
What
do
we're
it.
talking about are
But
they're logs that are parallel to the ground, but they're very big and they're up and they're propped up. So most men, of average height would have to put their arms above their heads to even reach the top of it. So you're generally getting help to get up over it. And there were like at least 3 of them in a row. They were kind of slick. I don't know if they were even real logs, but
I don't think they were.
yeah, they looked kind of
Yeah.
like plasticky playground logs, but huge.
And then they just got progressively higher. The last one was pretty high, but we didn't even try them alone. We just kind of did it as a team. And you could duck
Right.
back under after you got over and help somebody up over. And we saw a few guys try, but there's a lot of people slipping and sliding because you'd hit those slippery logs, muddy and wet. And I didn't see anybody, or maybe 1 or 2 guys got over by themselves, but on the lower ones. But that was about it.
Do you remember those 2 guys that they had kind of Speedos?
Stop it.
You don't want me to tell it? Tell
Go
me.
ahead. Go ahead.
There were 2 guys in front of us on this obstacle, and we'd seen them before, and they had Speedos for Superman Speedos, and then they had little capes that went on their butt, just tiny little butt capes. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending who you ask, one of the guys' Speedo got very loose with, I guess, the wet of the day, getting wet. It was so loose that every time he put a leg up to do this obstacle, the whole crowd was like, whoa.
Well, on the Legionnaires, the Legionnaires, I don't know if you saw that, but he was the one over, like Jack was like, I was like, Get in another line. Get in another line. You do not want to be under that guy.
Poor guy. It was like, I mean, he was completely, literally hanging out of that thing. I was like, dude, I don't know if he didn't know it or if he just didn't care. But we were all very intimate by the end of the obstacle. And I was like, whoa. And I turned around and the girl goes, oh my God, tell me about it. We've been behind him all day long.
Oh my gosh.
Hilarious, hilarious. But that's the thing, is that it was so fun. There were so many things. It was hard, and you do get a little scratched up and banged up. I can't believe you kept going with all those cramps. How did you keep going, Chris?
Well, I wanted to do it. My goal was just to do it as intense as I could. I didn't train per se for it, so that was kind of what I wanted to do to accomplish, was just to see how well I'm training in general, just with my working out and everything. So I wanted to just do it to the best of my ability, and I had cramps, so I walked. I wasn't not able to walk, so until I wasn't able to walk, I would just finish it. But I'm upset that I didn't. What I know what happened is because when I'm traveling, I don't hydrate as much. I don't drink as much water, and so I traveled. I flew. I didn't drink a lot of water, and then the next day I didn't drink a lot of water before the race. So I was, primed for dehydration. And next time I'll know better to make sure I'm fully hydrated and have enough salt. But I just wanted to finish it. I just wanted to make it intense. Because it could have been if you want it to not be intense, you can do so. You can walk around obstacles, and if you decide not to do certain things, but
I know. That's my middle name.
Chris, did you do anything special, like from a standpoint of your diet or fueling? How did you eat before, and did you eat the little
Gummy.
the gummies and all that stuff en route?
I didn't eat breakfast because I don't eat before I work out or do anything physical usually. Just typically, I don't. My body is really good at not needing. I won't pass out or anything. I'm really good at just not needing food right before I do something. So I didn't eat before. The day before, I had a burger and a beer at Louie Louie's. If you've heard of, I'm sure you've heard of that. And so I mean, there's nothing special at all. And then when I was running, I did eat the food that they had, and I did drink the water specifically because after a while I felt the cramps coming on, so I was like eating the banana. The banana was like the best thing.
I know.
A lot of banana, a lot of water, a lot of stretching, and still didn't really recover from it. But yeah.
Yeah, Jack kind of saved me because I didn't plan well for this at all. And the morning of, I was running late and we were meeting at a Shell station. So that's my breakfast, Shell station food. And so Jeff Fry had told me to just do high fat if I could and some protein, but really high fat. But I'd forgotten all my high fat stuff. So, of course, Jack Templin travels with MCT oil. I was like, really? And so I could have a coffee from the gas station with a lot of oil in it. I mean, I had a lot of oil in it, and it was yummy. And I had a sausage patty from one of those, egg and cheese like products. And I threw away the bun and stuff because he told me to just put carbs off as far as possible in the day. And it really served me well. I was amazed because I usually just try to have a big breakfast, pancakes, whatever, because I'm a carb load, and I'll crash, I'll be like mile 2 or 3 and I'm dragging, and I had decent energy the whole day. Of course, I skipped many obstacles, but still, 10 miles with doing several obstacles, that high fat, I think, served me well. Or nothing, maybe if I'd have done nothing, but I think the carbs would have screwed me up. I don't know. I didn't have them till after the run, and I was good. It was interesting. So
It's good to know.
Okay.
I've never experimented with that before.
Yeah, well, but you did say next time. So
Yeah.
that leads us to believe that you might do another one, Chris. Yeah?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was looking. I don't think they're gonna do one in Albuquerque. They haven't planned one anyways. So,
Uh-huh.
the closest one is Dallas, and there's people there that I can stay with. So that's my go-to race,
Can
I
I
guess.
can I plant a seed? Because we've all already talked about it, and I already have other people that want to do it. This time next year, we think that's going to be our next gun runner FRN team mud run as a Tough Mudder in Las Vegas. And I don't know how far is Vegas from you. Probably closer than
Closer,
it is to
closer than
us.
Dallas. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 15-hour drive.
All right. Well,
Um,
or you could fly.
right. I can only fly to Dallas, or I have to drive. Like our airport only flies to Dallas.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So I can drive to Albuquerque, which is 3.5 hours, or I can drive to Lubbock, which is an hour and a half.
Huh.
And I can fly out of there and get to where I have to go. But if I fly out of Lubbock, I'm probably gonna go straight to Dallas anyways. So I can just fly out of Dallas.
Wow, interesting. But we think that's just for anybody listening. There's a fall, they don't have the date on it, but they do have a fall Las Vegas run. And I think, Jack, aren't you thinking about doing something up in the Northeast though? Maybe that's our next, well, y'all's next run. I don't think I'd do that one.
Yeah, I am probably going to do one in Pennsylvania. I don't know. I actually exchanged face.
Oh, we might have lost Jack, but I think I know what he was saying, that he talked back and forth with Cynthia Crom. I bet you that's what he was talking about because I saw some of their posts back and forth, and she's willing to do one up there in the Northeast too. And he has some work people up there, right, Shelley?
Yeah, that's kind of headquarters for him. So he was thinking about getting like a company team together and doing that, but I don't know when that is. I don't know when he's talking about it.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, but I think at least for anybody who hasn't done one before and wants to train to just get up to, like Chris is saying, the hydration is important, the walking is important, that your body's not, I mean, you're adapted, Chris, to intense workouts. I'm not. So I had to skip a lot of things because I knew I was going to hurt myself, but I still had to be okay with the walk, and I hadn't even walked much, but I had a few months before that. I'd already gotten up to some longer walks. So we have a whole year though. People have a whole year to get ready, and it's not even something that you have to train so hard for. It's just, you don't want to get hurt from just the walk part, the long part of it, and then, you can just train as much as you want to do of it.
Well, and there's not like you can't really train to climb a rope wall 30 feet or because you don't know what's going to be there. Like,
Right.
we had to lower ourselves down that rope into the river and cross over and then up the cargo. I mean, there's just things you can't train to go up the quagmire, Chris, like there's just
Right.
things you can't train for. So it's just a matter of, I think just trying to be as strong as you can
Mhm.
and like I said, get your endurance for walking up. Now my endurance for walking wasn't up that much or running or whatever, but I didn't feel like that was the toughest part. I felt like the obstacles were the toughest part. So,
Mhm. Mhm. That's why I
but
skipped
I,
that one.
yeah, but like with the team effort, you know, most of them, and they're just sheer ones that like I couldn't do, like the pole dancer one where it was just, upper body. We only had one on our team. I mean, Chris, I imagine you probably got over, but everybody was getting wet on that one. So that's just upper body strength and. Well, if you have bad shoulders, we seem to have a lot of people in our group. Maybe we're the older group that had a lot of bad shoulders. So
The old
there's just
group.
nothing. Yeah, no, but
That's
for the
right.
most part, we did the majority of the stuff, and like you said, you don't have obstacles in your backyard where you can train for them. So
Yeah, I mean, if you do any kind of cross training or anything like that, where you're crawling, bear crawling, going under and over things, Caroline and I did a lot of that before she did her first one. was just, we made this little obstacle course in our backyard, and you don't have to do that, but it was, it made us feel more confident going into it. And I do have an appreciation for the people that will wear the long pants and the long sleeves because of all my scratches now, but I still don't think I can do it. I don't think I can wear that much clothing because just so that I won't get scratched up. Chris, what were you wearing after all?
Just I got the compression shorts and then some running shorts.
Over that.
And then I went to a sports place and got the on sale running shirt or athletic shirt. It wasn't a compression shirt, but it was like the tech material. And it was an Under Armour. It was quite comfortable for being wet and muddy and everything.
Yeah.
And actually, I washed it and it's fine, so I'm gonna keep it and use it for other things too.
I know. Before the run, we had talked about clothes, and you'd asked about Chris, and we weren't holding out on you about the knees situation, and the bloody knees and the bloody elbows. That didn't happen in Nashville, so we didn't know. And I remember standing in line when we were getting ready to go, thinking, why does that girl have knee pads around her ankles?
Right when we're about to go. She knows something we don't know.
And now I know. Like, ouch.
Just different terrain. It was just more roots, like Chris was saying. Their mud was rockier mud. You know where my knees, I really felt it. Do you remember that tunnel, that dirt tunnel where you felt buried alive?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I almost passed out. What did you say, Chris?
I almost passed out in there. I forgot about that part. Yeah, I'm a little bit claustrophobic.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't realize I was that claustrophobic until I did that event. Mm-hmm. But I went in it, and you can't go as fast as you want to. I want to just go. I want to just crawl, and get out of there. Well, this guy is in front of me, and he's like, "Oh, it dips here," and I go, "I don't care. I will
go,
fall
dude.
In that ditch. Just I cannot."
What did you say?
I can't fall. I'll fall in the ditch. It's okay. I'm fine. Just go. So they were taking forever. Well, I couldn't see, and so because it's pitch black in there, and I'm cramping very badly at this part. So my hip flexor started cramping on my right leg, and so I couldn't keep my legs unbent anymore, or not straight anymore. I had to unbend them immediately. So I kicked them out, and I was crawling around on my hands and my elbows, and my legs were just dragging behind me, and I was trying to get out, and it was so dark. Well, everything started turning red, so I knew I was about to pass out because everything was turning red, and I was just staring at this black. Then it turns red, and I'm like, oh no, I don't know what I'm gonna do, and then I finally look up and I realize the guy in front of me is not there, and I can see the end. And I was like, okay, cool. So I'm fine now. I can see the end. I felt fine after that. I got out and I had to stretch and kind of breathe for a little bit after that. But it was that was an intense one. That was a fear. That was a fear testing one more than physical of anything. So that and the jumping off the high
water.
High dive.
Yeah.
I'm a little claustrophobic too. So that one. I watched the girl, and I'm like, I'm going to keep the girl in front of me. She had like fluorescent shoes, and I thought I'm just going to stay as close to her shoes as I could, but I lost her because it was pitch dark, and then it kind of turned, and I didn't know that. I ran into it, so then I'm trying to figure out where it is, and
horrible.
I can hear Jack and Tyler behind me, but like I really had to concentrate too to get out of that because you couldn't raise up, you couldn't straighten out. It was kind of brutal. Getting through there. So
and
I feel you on that one.
Thing. It's such a simple thing. What they've done, and I've seen this before, we've had it at Warrior Dash, they dig a big trench, they cover it with like black tarp, and then they cover that with hay so that no sunlight gets through. And you crawl through this tunnel. Well, what we didn't realize was you crawl about halfway. Before that it dips, like you dip for some reason, it got deeper, so you kind of fall a little bit, and then you're going and you hit a dirt wall in front of you. That my heart stopped when, since there was no light, it just felt like I came to the end of the tunnel, and I was freaking out for a second, and then I realized, oh, it's a sharp left turn. So they didn't do a straight tunnel. They did half straight tunnel, and then you had to go perpendicular to the way you were going, and then it straightened out again like a Z or something. And what was interesting, Chris, when we came up to it, was like 2 of the tunnels were blocked with tape, with emergency tape, because they said a guy was in the middle of it. He freaked out and just stood up and ruined the whole obstacle.
Oh my gosh.
It really is just tarp, and I mean, we're all freaking out in there when really it's just tarp and hay above us. But there's something about that fear of being buried alive, I think, that really makes us all start going, this is the creepiest thing ever.
Well, I'll give you a hint next time, Chris. Cassie and Scott went on the far right one, and I guess the black wasn't all the way to the edge.
Oh, that's so cheating.
Their tunnel was completely lit. So we all get out. We're like breathing deep, going, oh, like we made it. And they're like, no big deal.
Oh, yeah, like they skipped the obstacle, but
yeah, it's like
a different experience if you can see it, because the barely little bit I could see in front of me was a wall of dirt at one point, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
no, like I'm gonna be buried alive in there.
I had someone tell me I was so scratched up the other day. I was wearing, can't remember what it was, but I think I was wearing a Tough Mudder hat or something, and a friend of mine who's friends on Facebook, who knew that we had done the Tough Mudder, said, "It looks to me like you did the tough concrete, not Tough Mudder."
I know.
Because my knees are so scabbed up, my elbows are scabbed up, and it was a lot more abrasive than Nashville was.
I can't believe it's been a week and a half, and Chris showed us his scabs his legs are still all. Just lots of skin missing from the front.
Mine are too.
Oh, yeah, Jack. That's brutal. So anyway, if people want to join us for this lovely.
It was really fun. I mean, it's an accomplishment, right, Chris? Jack?
Absolutely.
I mean, y'all have done multiple ones, Jack and Carol, so.
There's some reason we keep coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do it. I'm definitely going to do it again. And I could see doing, there are certain things like I didn't make it through the. I was prouder of my first one in the sense that I did all the obstacles and I made all the obstacles and I didn't fall in the water and all that. And I literally got 2 rungs up the Funky Monkey or something. glove slipped. I splashed in. I was so mad. And then when I went back through on the Legionnaires, it was really tough because they just had like single bars that you had to kind of, and I fell in this, and then a ring in the middle, and you kind of had to shimmy on this bar, and I didn't make it. So, once again, the weak link of the whole thing for me, once again, was upper body strength. I just didn't have enough to do all the obstacles like the way that I wanted to. But I still think that completing it is a really big deal.
Yeah.
I love the start. I love the start. The motivational speaker, the guy that gets us all fired up was. He was awesome this time, and not that the other guy wasn't, but this guy, they're all different, and it's just all around a cool thing to do, and Carol, you always say that it restores your faith in humanity, and it really does, because you end up with all these strangers that are helping each other out.
Chris, how was it for you going out there, and you were totally by yourself, right? So did you kind of get a group? I may have missed it. Y'all may have talked about that, but did you kind of get a group, or did you just go to an obstacle and get a new group every time?
It was a new group every time.
Yeah.
There wasn't anybody that I stuck with, because most people not very many people were running, and so
nobody can keep up with you.
Well, it was just every obstacle that I got to, the people that were walking had just got there, so I would do the obstacle with them, and then I would pass them and go to the next one, and by that time it's a whole different group. And so I never was around the same people. Even when I was walking, I wasn't around the same people for any obstacles. They were all new. Everyone.
Chris finished before we did.
Did you say he might have finished before we did with his 11:30 start time and our 8:30 start time?
Yeah.
Might be right.
Well, you said you guys finished at 2? Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You
I
texted me when you finished, and we had
yeah
finished just a little before you.
yeah I finished at about 3:30,
Yeah.
I think, or 4:30 maybe. I don't remember. I think it was 3:30
I
because I
think
was
it
on
was
Mexico
3:30
time.
because you texted me and you were like, I'm totally beat. I just
Yeah,
finished it. It was a blast. But
yeah. If I could have ran it the whole way, I might have been able to catch you.
oh,
Um, because I was running fast. I didn't realize I was running that fast until I got, to mile 5 or so. I was running maybe 6.5, 7 minute miles.
dang, you're
As just
crazy.
because I got so much rest that I didn't. Because when you stop at these obstacles, you're there
Right,
for at least 5, 10 minutes. That's enough to catch your breath.
right,
And
right.
I wasn't tired. Uh, my lungs weren't tired. I had plenty of, everything was
Energy.
fine. It was just my legs weren't working
Your
correctly. So
muscles
yeah,
revolted.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They did.
Jack's calves, Jack, your calves were cramping up quite a bit at the end, about mile 8 too, weren't they?
My calves both locked up too, just simply, as the day went on, and I think, it was a combination of things. I think that the terrain between between the obstacles was a little more hilly, so up and down. Chris, to your point, I think calves are flexing and all that. I don't necessarily think I helped as much in the first one as I did this one in terms of other just strangers and people. Like, we hung around different places and helped people. I thought that the mud mile was really tough. I mean, it was kind of like I'm not. I mean, it was muddy and everything in Nashville, but it was. You could not in Nashville. You could actually go in and out of this where the humps by yourself if you chose to. In
Right.
Dallas, it was impossible without help. And so you would help everybody over, and then help it. And that got done with that mud mile, even though it was fun and we all survived. I I do think that people who because it was brutal compared to the one we saw in Nashville.
See, I wouldn't know because I didn't do many obstacles. I did. It did seem, some of the obstacles did seem a lot harder, but I was so untrained that I just, even things that I knew I could do, like going down that terrain, that ravine and coming up the other side. I was just like, it's early in the day and I don't want to be ruined for the second half of the day. So I skipped things where I refused to skip the ones that are just about grit, like swimming through ice water, jumping off a high dive, going through electric shocks. Those things that you can't tell me you're not trained for that. You can't train for that. So, and I did several things that I knew we could get help with, but I just it was, I don't know, maybe I didn't earn my headband this time, but it was still pretty tough. It was still pretty tough even with all of that because like y'all said, it did seem to be a little bit of a tougher course this time, the terrain
Well,
Yeah,
and stuff.
I still think it's because it's not a race and because it is about the challenge and because 11 miles on a street is is
Tough.
is is, is a tough walk. I think that everybody earns their headband that finishes.
Awesome. Okay, then I feel better. Well, I think we ought to wrap it up. But I really appreciate you guys. I do want to put a shout out to everybody. Well, definitely a shout out to Tyler, Scott, and Cassie because the rest of our team was awesome. I got so much help from them, and they were just super fun. From Friday night when we were at PF Chang's and Michael from the AR-15 show who came out to dinner with us, and Edison and his daughter who all came out, just to cheer us on the night before at dinner. That was a blast. Anytime we do these things where we get together in the city, if y'all can come just say hi, that would be great. But be thinking about Vegas 2014 and be listening because Jack might have something going up Pennsylvania area too. And also a shout out to Lisa and her team. They're doing Florida pretty soon. I'm trying to remember their team name. It was Puff Mudder, but nobody liked that, so they changed it. But just shout out to Lisa Jarman and all her tough chicks that are doing that with her. Um, I'm gonna I'm going to do a real quick show in about a week on this other run that we did. The very next weekend, I did another mud run. Do you see the dog tag that I got? I'm putting it on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's super cool. It's a little gritty goddess. And this is my t-shirt, is a gritty goddess t-shirt. It was the most fun run. And I had a lot of ladies that had never done anything like this. Elena, that y'all know, our lost mother, she did it with me and some other friends. And some of those obstacles were pretty high. They had an optional shorter wall when there was a high wall and stuff, but there was definitely plenty of stuff to challenge yourself. But we just had a fun day. It was just so much fun. So I'm going to talk more about that run later, but I do want to tell people, like, if you can earn this dog tag, you can earn this headband. Totally, because this is about doing things with a team. You can challenge yourself if you want. Like Chris showed, you can run it if you want to. Just challenge yourself, but you can also do it and just rely on your team and rely on other friends, and it's just a blast. We had a blast both weekends, just totally different kinds of runs. So, if you haven't, what was the saying we kept saying all the time, Jack? When
was the last time you did something for the first time?
The last time you did something for the first time. Did that guy say that to y'all, Chris, in your pump-up speech?
He did. He was actually really good. He was very motivational.
Yeah. He is incredible. Like, everybody, we sang the Star Spangled Banner like we've never sang it before. No musical accompaniment. And then he just told a story about a guy who had passed away, and he knew he was going to. But he lived he did Tough Mudders and stuff, but he lived his last couple of years with that motto that he was just going to do a lot of things for the first time. Mm-hmm. And if you do a lot of things for the first time, like he said, that's what living life is about. And it's not about what we do out there at those 10 miles that day as much it is going back to your work, to your friends, inspiring people that you can do things. You can do things with help. You can do things you didn't think you could do. Or you can just do something for the first time and inspire somebody to kind of try to live like that. So I was psyched the whole day because of his speech, and I've been trying to live by those words for a week and a half. So thank you. Thank you guys so much for doing it with me. If I hadn't committed to it a while back, I wouldn't have done it because of all my schoolwork and everything, but God knows what he's doing because I totally needed that break. And it was really good for me in a lot of ways, and I appreciate you guys so much just for sharing with people.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Cool. It was a lot of fun.
Yep. A lot of
fun. As soon as we heal, it'll be even more fun. The memories will be even better. All right. Thank you guys very much. For anybody listening, please go to our show notes. The show notes today are at fat2fithq.com/106, and you will see ways to connect with us. I have not been on my Fitness Pal, and I have not been in the groups lately, but other people are. Other people are really keeping that alive, and I can check in from time to time. But my life about fitness and health I'm just trying to maintain right now, so I'm not tracking or anything like that. But I do like that the groups are still going on and people are still supporting each other. So shout out to everybody in the groups, and I will try to get in there and check in, and y'all should. You guys too. Okay, so we'll just keep everybody posted. Please leave us a review on iTunes, and if you have any feedback, you can send it to carol@fat2fithq.com. All right, mud runners, until the next mud run. Or next week.
Adios.
Adios.
Bye.
Thanks
Adios.
again. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Shelley. Bye.
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 Thanks for watching that video, but you should really come over and check out fat2fithq.com. Getting healthy, staying healthy, does not need to be miserable. Sometimes you just need a friend to go along the journey with you. You'll find links to our Facebook page, our MyFitnessPal community, and a lot of ways that you can have company on this journey. Thanks again for watching. Go do something healthy. Bye.
This has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. You can find more information at firearmsradio.tv.